Good evening, cruise fans, Colin fans. So if you've been tuning in, you'll remember poor Clive, he died, run over by an IKEA lorry due to the inauspicious driving of a milkman. Happens all the time around here. Anyway, we're back to Colin. Colin had, after the travel agents, that's right, yes. But before we get on to Colin, an extract from the East West Cruising Company forum on the internet. These forums do exist, by the way. The P&O one is hilarious. Just mad people. Anyway, this this post is from Folkestone Fran, 2-star member. Morning cruisers, hidey hi, hoody ho! Just after a bit of advice on socio-geographical protocol when abroad. Is it only in the subcontinent that a white dinner jacket should be worn? My husband, Folkestone Fred, insists that it should. Also, any advice for getting strawberry jam and wine out of a white dinner jacket? There you are. I'm sure there'll be plenty of replies on the forum to Folkestone Fran's etiquette inquiry. There were. So, our chapter, back to Colin. Colin goes forth. Now, readers, let us think back a couple of chapters. Yes, that's right. Colin was just leaving the travel agents in Cirencester. You may have been shaking your heads and tutting Britishly, askance at the poor penmanship, which should describe the unrealistic ease with which Colin had been persuaded to piss off into the tourism abyss on board a gaudily painted floating hotel heading to a load of places he'd only heard about when watching Michael Palin and reading Spike Milligan. The fact is that it was actually through a rather long and drawn-out war of attrition by which Colin was persuaded to sink a significant portion of his savings into this trip. The majority of the facts, conversations and coffee-fueled discussions which took place over the best part of a couple of months are of negligible significance and fairly dull in their nature. Gregarious brother Rupert may have thought that he was the driving force in manipulating Colin for his vicarious pleasure. I keep writing words I can't actually say. But a greater power was at work. A heavenly or possibly fallen archangel wielding the dark arts of the political spin doctor. As has already been implied, and perhaps noticed by the more eagle-eyed or maybe suspicious reader. Colin's sister-in-law, aka Rupert's long-suffering wife Felicity, isn't too keen on the Rupert-Colin coalition, and the large part their brotherly alliance plays in her social calendar. She likes Colin well enough. There really isn't all that much not to like about Colin. He doesn't particularly annoy her or offend her. Her social pretensions are fine with him. He doesn't cause allergy blotches to form on her forearms when he gives her the habitual and required in-law hug in Waitrose car park when the trio meet. He's more or less the ideal low-key brother-in-law. But he will persist in encouraging Rupert. The puns, the golfing jokes, the intentional Tourette's, they all come out to play when Colin is in town. Knob! That was Rupert's Tourette's again. All men have it in them. Arseholes! There we go again. No matter how mature, cultured, and well-to-do. Dick face! To be the office joker, the complete knobhead of the group. It's like when Nigel Havers turns up on Grumpy Old Men, or its working-class ITV sibling, Very British Problems. Suddenly, the suave, sophisticated gentleman gives way to the sniggering like a teenage boy who's just heard a particularly funny knob joke, and the classic good looks contort into eye-rolling and sighs of frustration with the humankind in general. Both Rupert and Colin are pretty much oblivious to Felicity's scathing critique. If Colin had noticed it, he'd probably have just ignored it. Blood is, after all, thicker than water, and almost as thick as Felicity's fake tan. And had Rupert been aware of his better half's disapproval, he wouldn't have given a toss, because behind all the bonhomie and irritating habits which mainly reared their ugly head in Colin's presence, Rupert was on a mission. No, more important than that, he was on a crusade. In the only way he knows how, Rupert is basically just trying to inject a bit of pizzazz into his older brother's existence, just as Richard the Lionheart no doubt had provided the Empress Saladin an interest in life. Rupert is convinced Colin's predictable routine of gradually aging is more than likely heading him to an early grave. or a long time regretting he didn't have an early grave. Excuse me. But Rupert doesn't understand Colin. For one thing, he doesn't understand why he hasn't ever married, although there have been a few close shaves. "You're not bloody Bertie Wooster, you know," he would taunt him. "I bloody am," would come Colin's response. Rupert doesn't like the sorts of thing that Colin likes. He finds gardening mind-numbing. He hates Monty Don even more than he hates cricket, and he thinks Colin dresses like a ponce. As brothers, they are polar opposites, but that doesn't mean that Rupert's heart isn't in the right place in general when it comes to Colin's welfare. So that's it basically. The pincer movement created by a sibling bond and an in-law's exasperation. A right bastard of a pincer movement, in fact, from which there's no escape for poor old Colin. He's kind of like Napoleon at Waterloo, and in the early evening the Iron Duke is bearing down on him in the form of an unstoppable onslaught of penis jokes, while the Field Marshal Blocher harries his flanks with barbed comments about denim at his age and the value of vegetarianism. Felicity wanted Colin out of their hair, and he'd been working on ways to achieve this for some time. Hints about holidays, suggestions about property prices in Devon and Cornwall, that sort of thing. And this is how Colin came to be sitting first at Waitrose Cafe and subsequently at a travel agent's, an apparently willing sales pitch victim, handing over his credit card with a slight tightening of the fingers and then stuffing a receipt into the electric blue line pocket he really does dress like a ponce. Electric blue pockets, it's not poncy, I wear them all the time. What did we get to? Okay. Right. The glass door of the travel agents opened inwards as another customer was drawn, sunbidden, into Michelle's ample clutches. Oh, big woman. Colin politely held the door open, then stepped out into the sunlit street, where there was mayhem. Mayhem, I say. Police were everywhere. Orange cones, interwoven with blue and white tape, diagonally intersected the road and the pavement. A crowd of onlookers had surrounded the contained area, craning their necks to see the possible carnage and cupping their ears to catch snippets of the garbled police radio gossip, obscured by the deafening noise of the wind whipping through the stretched plastic tape. A police constable, probably just out of training school, stood at the end of the possible crime scene. Colin noticed the untucked shirt, 4-digit shoulder number, and ruddy neck where the shirt's collar had rubbed into the standard issue clip on the tie. Last time. Colin noticed the untucked shirt, 4-digit shoulder number, and the ruddy neck where the shirt's collar rubbed until the standard issue clip-on tie had been abandoned, leaving the officer looking pretty scruffy. The copper looked about 19, but he was presumably older. Her face had been drained of all colour by the tableau of horror over which she currently stood guard, and each time her police radio crackled, she extracted a pen from behind her ear to scribble something in her notebook, forming the letters carefully with the stub of a pencil so as not to make a mistake. It was all pretty pointless and pathetic, really. Suppressing his quite natural sense of morbid interest, Colin skirted around the crowd of onlookers. He wasn't good around either blood or tragedy, so he tended to avoid these kinds of things, but on this occasion he was unable to tear his gaze from the blast circle of ripped up cardboard and the splinters of faux pine which reached as far as the WO lines on the opposite side of the high street. At the centre of the carnage was a large blue and yellow lorry. Its trailer was parked haphazardly, canted over against a mangled cycle rack and its equally mangled contents. There were apparently no human casualties there, at least. The lorry's front had been parked with considerably more precision, precisely and accurately through the window of the Afterglow tanning salon, where terrified and quivering half-bronze men and women were emerging in hastily pulled-on underpants and bikinis from plastic booths. The smell of diesel mixed with coconut oil and body odour as Colin finally dragged his gaze from the mad scene. It was probably best for Colin's overactive tragedy gland that he therefore overlooked the evil heart of the unholy mess. Beneath the wheels of the IKEA delivery lorry lay a miraculously unmangled mobile phone, still ringing, although the phone's tune was indistinguishable amongst the general hullabaloo. The phone lay in a limp and lifeless hand, which was attached to a body clad head to foot in lycra, which hugged its weedy limbs and torso. The police officer stopped writing in a notebook and picked up a phone as the squeal of ambulance sirens permeated Colin's ears. "Hello, PCQ speaking." The uniformed teenager's voice was broken and shaken. "Clive? No, this isn't Clive. I'm really sorry. There's been an accident. An officer is on his way to you now."